Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are on the second dev server for update 1.97 and now it's time to have a look at the AH-64D. Now you can kind of see this as a look at all three of the Apaches, the AH-64A and also the British AH Mark I, because the only real differences between them, if you have a look at the AH Mark I, is the engines are slightly different and also the fact that this has access to Starstreak air-to-air missiles, where the AH-64D has access to Stinger air-to-air missiles. They work slightly differently in the game, but that's really the only difference between the two machines. Then the AH-64A, this is just an Apache which doesn't have radar and also can only carry 8 of the Hellfires if it wants to bring along Stingers as well. If you don't want to bring along Stingers, you can still bring the full complement of 16 Hellfires, so yeah, pretty much as simple as that. So let's have a look at the AH-64D, the best version, in my opinion, of the Apache in the game, only secondary to the British one. So, the fact is, with the Apache being added to the game, now we have a new top-tier vehicle for America. You can see that it now splits off from the AH-1F into the Apaches or the AH-1Z. So you have some pretty cool competition at high tiers, depending on what helicopters you want to take for America. The Apache obviously has a few advantages in its favor, and the AH-1Z has a few in its as well. The main one on the Apache's favor is, of course, the radar that is on top of it. If we have a look at the modifications that the Apache has for it, the nice thing is the fact that it does get access to a ton of flares. It also gets access to Stingers, which don't actually go on its actual hardpoints or its pylons, so therefore they just stick on the end, so you can still have all 4 of these pylons just chock a block full of stuff. And also with the modifications, you start off only with Hydras, so you're going to be using 76 Hydras to start off with if you don't want to GE your way through stuff. But once you start GEing your way through stuff, you can get to Hellfires at rank 2, and then at rank 4 you can get yourself at AGM-1142 Hellfires. So you get access from these ones to 8 to 16, so overall you get access to quite a lot of them. But once you are fully upgraded, this machine has pretty much everything that a helicopter has to offer. The only thing that it's struggling with is a bit of range. Obviously, with the KA-52 and the KA-50 in the game, the KA-52 having access to Vickers, or Vickers, however you say it, they have a range of 10 kilometers. I don't think the Hellfires would have a range of that. I've never been able to get them to hit off 10 kilometers, so I'll be very surprised. They don't actually say the actual length of the Hellfires or how far they travel, only the maximum speed, and of course the guidance, which is laser. So let's get into a nice little test flight just to show you how this is. There's also no camouflages, I believe, for any of these Apaches, so you're pretty much just stuck with the overall camouflage. And this camouflage, it isn't bad. I mean, it is nice, and it's also different for each of the vehicles, so that's something to be happy about. But at the same time, it is a little bit bland. Obviously, Apaches are very well known in overall, you know, pretty much everything because of the fact that, you know, they are machines which are very much well used by nearly every nation on the planet, it feels like sometimes. So, talking about the radar that this machine has access to, the first thing to understand is it's not just a simple, just one stage radar, and nope, we're okay. So, it has access to 2 sets of radar, if you want to look at it like that, or at least that's how it acts in game. So you have an air-to-ground radar, which is the one that you're seeing right now. It's pointing at all of the targets which are over in that direction, including this little boy, this little boy over here, which is of course the Tunguska. So let's just laser him, and let's just see, will our Hellfire be able to hit him? So it just goes up. And of course it goes down, and it's targeted. We could even look over here if we wanted. It's already auto-lasered in. So anyway, after that is done, let's just take out the other AA as well, just for good measure. And the air-to-ground nature of the radar pretty much tells you as much as you need to know. You know, where the enemies are, what concentration they're in, all of that good stuff. Then you have an air-to-air radar as well. So this one is good for telling you what is around the place when it comes to to planes, or when it comes to other air units, whether it be helicopters, and that is kind of nice, you know. It's something that is overlooked, I would say, when it comes to helicopters, just because of the fact that you're not always having to deal with aircraft. But for me, at least, let's just see if we can get our little thing locked on. There we go. So let's get our stinger locked on. Are we firing? Oh, we don't feel like it today? There we go. So, we're locked on, we've got the stinger going in, and pop. Stingers are incredibly deadly in this game, by the way. At least on machines like this, when it comes to close quarters. But the other thing is, with these two separate radars, you can easily just flick between them. You know, you've got the air-to-ground, you've got the air-to-air, and you've also got flares on this vehicle, so you can have a look at them as well, if you want to do the good old Valkyrie idea. And just fling them off to the side. They'll also auto-fire, because of course they will, because it's helicopters, and helicopters have a lot of automatic systems to them, such as aiming, such as auto-flares, such as auto... pretty much everything. Even hovering is a thing, of course, in helicopters. So there's just pretty much everything, and since the Hellfires come from straight above, they can just hit a tank whenever it feels like. Obviously it's not going to be as easy as this in a game, but you can see the general idea. You laser in on a target, you pop the Hellfire, and it goes kaboom. You do have access to thermals in the AH-64D. All of the Apaches actually have access to thermals, and you also have a really nice cockpit. So it's pretty simple, you know, it is a cockpit placeholder, but it gives you glass cockpits where you can see everything. So let's say you laser in on a target such as this, and then you can see it in your HUD, you fire your AGM, and it just lasers in on it. You can look at your screen and see it annihilated as it goes, and you can even, you know, touch everything from the screen. So simulator wise, you know, this is actually really nice. It's a perfect setting to have this vehicle in. You also have access to open and closed cockpits, and of course the map. I think the glass cockpits idea for helicopters is just really cool. I don't think there's a single system in the game, or a single set of systems, which is more interesting to me than something like helicopters. I really wish it wasn't as automated, but still it is nice to see. And of course with the Apache and with the other top tier helicopters in the game now it seems like every nation has something which is comparable to each other, at least to the highest tiers, which have tech trees. So it's good. Maybe one day we'll be able to turn. There we go. And maybe we can target somebody. You can even auto-fires if you wanted to. Obviously has the chain gun, which is very nice to see. The chain gun itself does a decent amount of damage, but that's obviously not a weapon you're going to be using too much, unless for some reason you have run into another helicopter and you've both run out of major ordnance, which would be kind of hilarious to see. But the chain gun has access to just Hef-E, 51mm a pen, so pretty good for a HE round, but still only 50mm worth of pen. Nothing to really write home about. Armor is 20mm around the two pilots. You can see the seats themselves, and then the front and the bottom of them. 20mm might keep them alive, but I highly doubt it in this machine. And from the inside, you can see the gunner and the pilot, radar at the top, the transmission, and this thing is powered by two General Electric T700 GE701C turboshaft engines with a maximum power of nearly 2,000 horsepower with 150 kgf. Bunch of fuel tanks all over the thing as well, and of course the flexible turret 30mm that we talked about before. Incredibly deadly when it comes down to it. I suppose the only thing when I think about the Apache, actually I should probably test out the thermals, the only thing that kind of has always confused me about the Apache is when we have a look at it and compare it to other vehicles that are already in the game, e.g. the H-1Z, I've never really understood why people want the Apache so much. I mean, at the end of the day, the H-1Z has pretty much all of the systems, bar the radar stuff. that the AH-1Z has access to. This is definitely not the evening. And that always perplexed me, why people want the Apache, and I'm guessing it's just, once again, one of those things where a lot of people see them in real life. Obviously, there are a lot more Apaches around than there are stuff such as, you know, AH-1Zs, so more people know about them, whether they're American, whether they're not American, and so they're more interested in it, and I think that's fine. It just is how it is in a lot of these things. There we go. So you can see the general night vision. It's just hover, and unfortunately the night vision screws up with this, but that's okay. And we have our targeting reticle, and I don't know why, but my thermals don't feel like working, because of course they don't. It's always something with these bloody things, isn't it? Obviously we have all of the stabilization stuff and all of that stuff. We even have some cockpit lighting, which is nice to see. So let's just see if I can do this real quick. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. There we go. So we have ourselves some wonderful thermals. And then you can brighten it and darken it if you feel like. We also need to go down a little bit, because we're going a little bit high. There we go. So this is what the thermal sight looks like. You can see the targets from absolutely miles away. Everything else is night vision, as is not really a surprise. If you want to see what this target looks like at night, this is what you can see. So let's just tag onto it and get the AGM ready. See if... I will be incredibly surprised if that hits, but I'll be incredibly happy too. So we can see the big old signature on it, and pop! God damn. These things are so impressive. But yeah, so general night vision across the board. Oh, we need to raise ourselves a little bit. There we go. And with the addition of thermals as well, it just adds a new layer to this craziness. There's so much when it comes to these vehicles that is to be admired when it comes to these helicopters, and with the most recent changes with helicopters, with the fact that they've now made it that you can't just spawn them at the start of games, it's going to be interesting to see how helicopter players adapt. But when you have 3 new Apaches, also the Ka-29 and also the Ka-52 to be able to use, I'm sure they'll find a way to be able to play these very easy and interesting machines. After all, if you are interested in specific vehicles in War Thunder, you're going to find a way, hell or high water, to try and play them, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in playing stuff such as this Apache. Just like I'm interested in playing it right now, you know, even just firing the 30mm chain gun, firing stuff such as the Hellfire in. It's just fun to use, and hopefully that means that with time, a bunch of other people will become more interested in helicopters, since it is definitely one of those game modes which isn't as populated as some of the main ones. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I just want to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.